Salvete, mihi nomen est, Stella. Ad hoc est, Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 226 for October MMXXII. And here's a nice little apple cider that I will be drinking throughout the duration of this episode. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So, if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out milehighcomics.com. Well, this episode seems to have been waiting to be recorded for a long time. I've been putting it off and putting it off. You'd think after Dear Reader finished that I would feel more energy for podcasting, but I'm kind of still in this podcasting fatigue. Not to mention, October has just been a whirlwind with lots of social activities that I've been required or asked to join in with. And we're still not over. I've got something this weekend, something next weekend. It's crazy. And midterms. This week is midterms, but I need to get this done in order for an episode to come out in October. So here we are. And I'm hoping that I will make it. So I do want to, of course, start off speaking on my trip to Cape Cod, technically T-Ticket, Massachusetts, to visit Harry Harold Harrison, the Fishman Shoot, which I will from time to time called Right Round Shoot, because that's his name. And I'll try to go through this quickly because I know that some people don't like these long intros, but I made it back. And remember, there's this question of would either of us survive? So we did both survive. There was a strangulation on from myself to Harry, but he had it coming. And as Chicago fans know, when he had it coming, bad things happen. So yeah, I'll just go, I actually kind of kept a journal or try to refresh, and I'll just try to quickly go through everything. But, a question on all of your minds might be, maybe not, why was I even going up there? Now, was it just a friendly visit, like I've done for Josh and Don? Was it something else? Now, the reason was that Harry had something pretty substantial planned for his immediate future. And I'm not going to say because it leads to a bamboozlement, and I think it's really no one's business except for whom he wants to involve, and I was someone involved, so I'll just keep it to myself. But he was going to do something pretty important, and this involved physical activity for a sustained duration, about 2 years or so. And now this poor guy, I was watching what he was doing in New York City. And there's a lot of walking in New York City. So if you're not used to cardiovascular activity, it's going to be rough. And sure enough, there were some times during our walk, remember that he and Donovan got us lost. There was a lot of walking on Sunday. Hands on the knees, kind of, little fatigued. And if Donovan turned around and asked, was he okay? He's like, yeah, I'm just joshing. That guy was not joshing. So knowing that this substantial thing was going to happen, it's on the horizon, it's going to happen or begin happening in October, I was concerned. And I knew that this guy needs to get some physical activity in his body. And that I love to help people out, whether they want to be helped out or not. But it's usually from the goodness of my heart, honestly. So I said, hey, if you find a 5K in your area around that time, October, so before you get started, I'll go up there and I'll run it with you. And so this would give incentive of training. So we found one pretty immediately. And I should also say that I sort of cold contacted his mother on Facebook and said, here's my idea. but I know about this right round character and that he kind of pushes things off. And so would you be there to kind of needle him and encourage him and get him going? He's like, yeah. She said, yeah, if you find a race and he signs up for it, I'll encourage him and keep him on track. So he found a race pretty quickly. And I got train tickets months in advance, probably June, I think. And so I would say generally, I'm not super consistent. I've been, I don't know what it is. I think it's just like there's so much going on in my life that sometimes working out and stuff is lower on the priority, and I just want to sleep instead. So I'm not as consistent, but in general, I could go out, and this sounds like bragging, but I could go out and run 3 miles and I would be okay, even if there's been like a week gap. I have to be careful because my IT band, I can get re-injured very quickly. If I haven't run, it gets really tight and then that throws me off for weeks at a time. So I do have to be careful. But generally, like I keep fit enough that I can do that. But of course, I'm going to try to do more. It's always good to maybe do 1 to 2 miles longer than your actual race run. And so I'm encouraging him, and I find out, I guess there are like two things. So first of all, something I learned in my friendship with Right Round is that, and that's really his name. I mean, you'll have to ask him for more details, but it's literally his name. Right Round. I've learned some things in gaming because we have gaming dates every Wednesday. If he says maybe, maybe like that, it means no. He's not confident enough to say no to people. I think maybe he doesn't want to hurt his feelings. Something else I have learned about him is that he will deliver crucial, potentially life altering, but general, yeah, important information very casually. So we had just watched a film, I'm pretty sure it was Prey, and tucked in at the end of a statement was because I'm not blank, which that blank is that life altering event that I had said he was no longer doing it. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? What is this? And so then there's some awkward laughter. Then he explained what was going on, and I had to instruct him, as I think that, frankly, I should do some life teachings and lessons, motivational speaker to sort of help people out. So I told him that this is not the way to tell important information. And next time, let people know. So if he ever gets engaged, hopefully he'll start off. But he did not take that lesson to heart because I had not been nagging him about training. I would ask like, how's it going? And he would tell me a little bit. And he had told me that he had it wasn't as good. Like he didn't want to tell me. I'm like, that's fine. I don't want to get stressed out either. I said, just don't embarrass me at the race, basically. And he had gotten injured at one point. Checking in on him, he seemed confident that it would kind of wear off. And we were playing a video game, I'm pretty sure. And unfortunately, that life lesson that I offered about, hey, you set aside a breath or a space in your conversation for important notifications, that didn't keep with him because at the tail end of something like that, I think getting pretty close to the race, maybe the week of, I would say, are you nervous? Race as well as me visiting, just kind of checking a temperature check. And I think this time he said something along the lines, well, not as nervous now that I won't be running the 5K. So again, tail end of something. So I was not only bamboozled once because I was dragged up to T-Ticket because I thought this guy was going somewhere. And then I was bamboozled twice because the reason I was up there, the secondary reason, he wasn't even going to run the race. So just a preface. So I'll now call him the bamboozler. I'll transition from Right Round to the bamboozler. And for that reason, if you recall, I rate in terms of movies, what the rating would be, the parental guidance for visits, and the professor, because she's a bully, I call it NC-17 because I have to really calm my heart down and sort of recover afterwards. And this one was definitely X-rated because well, we'll get into all of this stuff, but the bamboozling started us off pretty badly. um And then some things with some video games went pretty badly. So again, even though I'm using X and I know that generally has a connotation attached with it, there's no I was gonna say oingo boingo. That's not it. There were no sexual things going on. I was staying in his parents' place. It's just how I identify because it's just extreme. So we'll see. So Friday, long train ride. So that's another thing. He bamboozled me for a 10 and 11 and really reverse 11 and 10-hour train ride is crazy. I told him that I definitely needed to, that night when I got there, it was about 7 or 8, I think, when we finally got back. I needed to go on a walk because my IT band is just, it's very, it needs some love. So if I'm sitting for a long time and then don't do anything like no stretching or no activity, then when I start to run, it's really tight. And so because the race was the next day, I just knew I needed to do something. So really Friday was coming into Rhode Island. Providence was where the train dropped me off. He picked me up. We had about an hour and a half ride, which that was harrowing because that guy goes 15 to 20 over. I was a bit scared for my life, but I thought, well, this will certainly make for a good story if I die. And then, yeah, just dropped stuff off and ended up going on a walk in the dark just to get things going. Didn't stay up too late because obviously the race was on Saturday and I generally wake up 2 to 3 hours before a race. So I woke up at 5 or 5:15, something like that, and had some breakfast, and which I don't think I've spoken of this, but I've really started adopting Swiss breakfast habits, which I feel like, you know what, as an aside, I feel like a much healthier person since I left the hospital, mentally, emotionally, and then physically as well. I've like mostly have been exercising and everything, but I've been fitting into clothes that haven't been wearing for a while, way back like first, second year of teaching. I'm like, oh wow, these fit again. There might have been a problem with all of that. So muesli is something that I generally have every day, which is oats and nuts and some dried fruit. And then I put it in some yogurt and let it sit overnight. And it's just really good. So got that from the Swiss and going over there. So anyways, made some muesli. I had taken like a little ounce packet, which probably was like the same size that drug dealers would use. And so I had my breakfast and then I was able to read a bit while I was doing that and then did some homework as well, which is great. Which is the nice thing about the train ride is that I can do some grad school work. And he at first was saying, I'll set my alarm for 5:00. I was like, do not set your alarm because there's just no reason for multiple people to be punished. But he was going to go with me. Ian is happening, or the tail end, it has happened as kind of, so it's rain the entire time. So I am very appreciative that he came with me and stood in the rain. I had rain gear on and then I gave it to him to carry. And I just had a tank top and shorts because the less I have on while running is better for me. So of course I was drenched at the end and I did get sick. I don't know if I got sick because of that or if it was someone on the train, but just so you know, race was pretty good. Wasn't my fastest time. I felt pretty good about it. I think, the rain to a certain extent slows me down. And then also if I don't know the route, I generally have a slower time because I feel like some of my energy, I shouldn't say a lot, some of my energy is spent often because I don't know where I'm going. Whereas if I do know the route, that sort of part is turned off and I can focus on something else like breathing or pacing or something. So it was a bit slower, but under 30, which I always appreciate. Had an apple cider donut, which is lovely. They also offered clam chowder, which I did not get. That was too early in the morning. I don't want some clam chowder. We then took a brief walk through town to sort of survey what we were talking about. I found a place for lunch I wanted to go to. I was probably a bit obnoxious because I kept asking basically every time we were driving or walking, have you been there? Da, 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 da. And he hadn't. So a lot of this, I think, this trip, I got him to do some things that he may not have normally. So it's still raining, and we're going to go return to the car. And I thought he knew where he was going, but guess what, friends? He did not. We did get lost returning to the car. He may argue otherwise, but honestly, you know you're going to take my word for it because I don't lie. I tell you different things. And I thought, is this the moment where I get murdered? But the bamboozer did not. Warm shower. We're going to go to this place that I saw called the Pickle Jar. I'm just by name alone, I'm like, I think this could be a great place. And then, of course, do a little bit of research and see what they offer. And it looks pretty good. But we do play some games. We play some all on the Nintendo, I'm if I recall correctly. Some Mortal Kombat 4, Mario Tennis, and Mario Party. And Mario Party, I do have a couple stories involving that. Oh my gosh. We were playing this. Well, let's just say that there was a time when I asked like how spaced the rooms were. And Harry said, do you think we're going to be hooting and hollering? Because I was, in fact, worried about that. And I started laughing. He started laughing as if that's not going to happen. Anyone who knows me knows that I do get worked up and I do start hooting and hollering. There was one game where these gophers, you're in these holes and you're supposed to pop up and hold yourself out for as long as possible, or these gophers come and hit you. So it's kind of like a reversal. They've taken the back the power. And I won, I think, all times that we played this. But there was one time this gopher was hanging over my hole, and I jumped up out of my seat and yelled, "That's goaltending." Which is a basketball term. But I was 100% serious when I jumped up and shouted, "That's goaltending." So these are just some things that happened. There was also this ball rolling in Mario Party, and I was yelling, laughing, all the emotions at Harry because we were partners on this. And it was just terrible. I was yelling and asking, "Are you actually touching the ball?" Because I think he was Peach at that point, or the other girl. I don't remember her name. And it didn't look like it. And then there was this terrible one called Battery Ram. And at first, we just had CPU as partners, and I had Luigi. I was always Yoshi, and he was ridiculous because he was not. I was just yelling because he wasn't doing anything. And then Harry and I tried to do this battery ram as well, and that there's lots of yelling there. We had the pickle jar for lunch, which is great if you're in wherever we were, downtown tea ticket maybe. I recommend it. We walked through town again, still raining, and I like to do I usually get probably one souvenir, so I was doing some what what do I call it? Oh man, basically looking to see what sorts of deals there are and what sort of items there are, and then I compare and then I choose one in the end. So, which I did. Also found an ice cream place, and now Harry knows how much I love pumpkin. Did they have pumpkin ice cream? They did. I got super excited. We walked out. We did go back later. Um, we returned. We played the rest of the mini games, and of course, just had some frustration with the battery ram and the ball. We had a brief call with Bat Whisperer, aka Donovan Morgan Grant. Had pizza with the shoot primaries, as I'll call them. Lovely people. I've added them to my parental collection, which is great. And then Harry and I went to go get the pumpkin ice cream at Gelfie's Premium Chocolates in Falmouth, and he did not get that. I think he got mint chip or something, but pumpkin was great. And then I did okay. We watched a movie. I offered this doc to Harry to see, hey, you want to add anything? And I'm seeing something that he added. Maybe I added it. I don't know. But we watched a movie. I had said that I was going to bring a movie. And so I thought, well, do you want to watch Ghost in the Shell? And I really have no interest in Ghost in the Shell, mostly because I don't care to see a naked woman running around for 90 minutes or so. But I thought, you really love it, and I'm bringing something, so all's equal. And I guess he didn't understand kind of this punishment viewing, but it was more like out of love, I am willing to watch this, love and friendship. But he ended up saying there's actually a better film called The Road Home, which is a Chinese film, right? Yes. And I really enjoyed that. And apparently, without me knowing, Harry, in fact, did tear up or cry. It says H crying unseen. I don't know if I wrote that or he wrote that, but that is true. I found out later. Saturday, while we were or Sunday, I guess. Saturday while we were walking, I did see this breakfast place after the run and that they had pumpkin pancakes. So of course I'm overjoyed. So Sunday we're gonna go get these pumpkin pancakes called Shiverick. The doors are closed, the doors are locked. People are inside eating. There's a sign that says handicap entrance to the back. Those doors are also locked. Two people come up, ask what's going on. We also don't know. They end up leaving. I am moments away from typing on my phone and putting it up against the window so someone can see why the door's locked when a couple came out. And we found out that they were just short staffed and there was only one waitress. So we did go in, we let her know and said, take your time. And, it was a longer wait, but we are both patient people. We had conversation and the pumpkin pancakes were great. We walked around Mashpee after that, and then we did the main event was an escape room. I had never done an escape room. Harry had never done an escape room. So it was an experience. Naively, I thought escape rooms were laid out in a manner that it was clear how to go from one puzzle to another. But when I went in there, boy, was I overwhelmed. Sensory overload because no, they're just all over the place and you're not necessarily sure in which order to go. And there was one directly to our left with rings. And so I was like, well, let's sort this out. And then afterwards, we just weren't sure. And it was about 10 minutes. And then there's like a helpful hint of like, you solved that puzzle. And then da da da. And from there, it was better. But I was getting super discouraged just because I had no idea. And now I know because I want to do another one now that I know what it's actually like. And we were able to gather some things that, like, oh, all of these things have symbols on them. Let's use them. And in a way, it is good to get a look at everything because even if you're not going to use something right away, something may spark later on that, oh, hey, this connects to this because you had given a whole survey of the thing. We finished, it was a pirate theme. We got the treasure, I think like 6 minutes, I think, to go. I was getting kind of nervous in the end. And both of us had some aha moments. I had threatened that I was going to just sit there or stand there and laugh. Um, as Harry figured things out, but we did work together and it was a lot of fun. We then went to the knob at Quissit Harbor Trail and got to see some crazy waves. Everything, yeah, the water was just crazy because of, I think, of Ian. Sunday, no rain, but just really blustery. Uh, we did some more mini games, and at one point we had to find our way through a maze, and there were just those tubes, those sewer tubes that Mario goes through, and you had to pick up the right ones, and then there's one in the middle. And I had just like jumped in to go in the middle one and win, and Harry had come out of nowhere and pushed me off, and I jumped up out of my chair and hovered like in a threatening way over him. I do think that I scared him. So now he knows. We had a family dinner. We played family Scrabble. After that, we went on the ghost crab search, which is super sad because we didn't find any. We did find a lot of carcasses. Some people on the interweb say carapaces, so maybe they weren't actually dead, but many horseshoe crab, carapaces, or carcasses. I still feel like many of them were dead, but maybe not. And then we watched Belle, which I enjoyed. I own it, so obviously I enjoy it. Harry didn't like as much. So again, a reason why he and I will never be because we disagree on nearly every sort of form of media there. And then we also played Gears of War too. I was barely making it. I was very tired. Monday, we were considering going to Martha's Vineyard. I wanted to go there. But with the weather and then all these suggestions that the family were making, I was like, no, that's closed, that's closed. I thought, man, is it even worth it? So because technically we were off season. So I think April through August or something is in season. So I'll just have to return again and visit that. We did see Nopska Lighthouse, which is great. We went to Woods Hole and saw the Oceanographic Institution Visitor Center and Store. We played more Mario Party. We finally got the battery victory, which was great because we would have broken up after that, I think, because of all the yelling and such. We surveyed potential swimming holes, which yes. So Mama Shoot, I think instigates, but it seems to be a family tradition where the shoots swim to a buoy and back. Now the buoys were taken, but I was very willing to do this, even though it might have been cold. She said that she's done it in January. I think she's like me, someone who can easily manipulate and convince people to do things very sweetly as I do. And so I was willing, but it was just choppy. But then Sunday it wasn't too bad, but or Monday, I guess, but we ended up not doing it. But again, something else. We had lunch at Sweet Rice, took a brief homework break because I needed to do some stuff, and Harry, I think, filled out some things. And then we did a podcast that had been stewing for a bit on the Resident Evil TV show and Prey. That was fun to be in person. We had dinner with the shoot primaries at a nice restaurant, which is great. I think that dinner was the most surprising and rewarding because we talked about religion, politics, abortion came up, death penalty came up, and it was all a lovely conversation. No one was getting angry at anyone. I thought this is great. But I also told Mama Shoot that I disagree with your son on, on nearly everything. Like we do not agree. But I think to clarify, because he and I know what we're talking about, it's like in terms of media, because I think a lot of things we do align with certain moral or ethical things you might differ on, but definitely like, yeah, maybe video games, but mostly movies and things like that. And then Monday evening, we watched Over the Garden Wall. And again, Harry didn't like that, but I, of course, love that. And Tuesday was just the train ride back and the dog. There was a dog there the entire, which was Harry's eldest sister's dog because she was on her honeymoon. And apparently this dog cannot be left alone. So he was with us. And so I was just dropped off and then they skirted away. So overall, a very fun trip. We both survived. I think there's always a question or a wondering, at least on my, when you are going to spend time with someone for the first time and a significant amount of time alone, how's that going to work out? Because generally I just hang out with Harry. Well, on lawn, obviously, but that's different. And then if Donovan's there. And so this was like sustained what's going to happen. But it turned out, I think it turned out well. You'd have to talk with him and see how it was. But I had a lot of fun. And Mama Shoot is a delight. I loved her accent, and so I had been trying to bring the A's back in there, but she's got a story about shaking hands with Barack after the Boston Marathon bombing that she kind of adjacently knows Mark Wahlberg, and she is related to Peter Griffin. I kid you not. So I think that's basically it. Because no one I think that has visited the shoots listen to this show, I will say that Mama Shoot said that I was her best and favorite guest. And so that's really all I want because I try to have or leave a small footprint. And so as long as that hootin' and hollering didn't get too crazy, then we're good. I'll be invited back maybe again sometime. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to Right Round the Bamboozler for allowing me to do that. Okay, well that's it for the intro. Long intro. I apologize, but there you go. You get a sense of what happened. That was pretty, finding my joy. But if we were to go to Shag's Mac and Cheese Covered in Joy segment, I will say that something super amazing that happened is discovering what the corn song, the origins of the corn song. Now on Reels in Instagram, I suppose in TikTok as well, I often wonder what the origin is of songs that are used or clips that are being played. And so I will research and see, oh, where this actually come from. So I have been seeing a lot over corgi videos. For me, I really like corn. And I'm like, what is this? What is this about? But of course, the person says corgis. What do you like about corgis? I recommend Corn Kid, maybe you could look up, but he is a delight. And he's just so cute. His love of corn is precious, and just his positivity. I think is what this world honestly needs. And I mean this genuinely, that you should look that up, and he's cute. He's wonderful, and I hope that the world doesn't get him down, and he continues to be this bright spot. So that was the song. The intro song is a remix of that, but I do really highly recommend seeing that interview with the quote unquote corn kid. Okay, so we're going to talk some Birds of Prey, but before that, I do have two quickies from Nightwing, and I'm going to share my screen. I think there's only a couple things that I want to mention, but this is Nightwing 88 Flurry, February 2004 is the cover date. Blockbuster already upped the ante in his bloody vendetta against Nightwing. This time around, he does the unthinkable. So, just a couple comments. Yeah, he has a bad dream. Of course, we have to see all this. But at one point, Wally comes and checks in on Babs and actually jokes about Bruce and his feelings. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see. Bab says, "Aren't you talking to the wrong person, Wally? I mean, you're his best friend." And Wally says, "And as his best friend, I'm doing what he'd want me to do, and I'm making sure that you're okay." Sides, Dick's not alone. I'm sure Bruce is talking him through his feelings. And Bab says, "No fair," making me laugh. So that was fun. And we've seen Wally check in, and both of them have conversations with each other regarding Dick. So I liked that Devin Grayson brings that back. Ooh, I said that art. Oh yeah, art errors abound. We have handles on Bab's wheelchair, as you can see. At one point, is it here? Yeah, Dick grabs his right shoulder, saying it hurt, but later the bandages are on the left, and that is in fact he was shot on the left side. So that was kind of bizarre. There was a section that I'm sure Donovan would appreciate, where Dick pulls a, I don't know if this happens here. Yeah. Dick pulls a cast and says, "Nobody dies tonight. Nobody, do you understand?" as the circus is coming down around him. And then just a beautifully tragic scene at the end where Babs is hearing what happened. He comes wordless. He starts crying in agony, and then, as you can see, this last page where she is cradling him, and then the shadow where you've got Batgirl and Nightwing, which, yeah, again, yeah, beautifully tragic is definitely how I would describe that. And then we have 89, which its subtitle is Avalanche. March 2004 is the cover date. Blockbuster has surrounded himself with the most lethal cadre of assassins ever assembled: Stallion, Lady Vic, Brutale, the Trigger Twins, Mouse, Giz, and an army of gun-laden gangsters. But can even the deadliest of killers stop a hero who has nothing left to lose? So unfortunately, they're so broken up, right? So I'm sorry, Dick, but you have to leave now. She's got his outfit and everything. He says, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I just didn't know where else to go." And she says, "I know." Baz, is there any chance that we? No. Maybe it was a mistake to let you in last night. I didn't mean to confuse you. I just couldn't turn you away. I still love you, Dick. I'll always love you. But right now, I think it's best if we don't." And he said, "Right. I guess I'm still living in the past. Sorry." Slams the door, and she's crying. Really, quite sadly, Blockbuster blows up Dick's apartment building, killing everyone inside, which is just crazy. And I sort of wonder whether this era that we're currently in, this arc, these couple of arcs with Blockbuster, if this is Dick's Nightfall, because Blockbuster really is going after everything that Dick cares about. And golly, that whoo, that's a big hit right there. It is interesting that I don't know if we saw this yet, but the captain actually yells his former partner, of course. Yeah, look at that. Yells dick out in the which only Nightwing is there. So that's problematic. I mean, apparently she doesn't know how secret identities work either. And I think that's basically it. I'm interested to see. Ooh, yeah, we are getting close to, of course, the issue that we all know of. I'll be interested to see what my response is to that. I have reached out to Devin Grayson. I have another question for her. She has yet to reach back. Hopefully she will. But just about the breakup, whether it was something that she had planned, given the evolution of Dick, or was it something DC editorial wanted, and it was up to her creatively to make it fit. So we'll see if she responds to that. But it's interesting that we're seeing the breakup across the board. So it's either Devin Grayson had a huge impact on the Bat books at the time, or it was DC editorial, because of course we saw it in Batgirl and we're about to see it in Nightwing. Sorry, Birds of Prey. So we're moving on to the main event, which is Birds of Prey Secret Files and Origins, and then 2 issues of Birds of Prey. And I will say that before you criticize me on this, yes, I do know that I'm doing it late and that this probably should have been reviewed right before Gail Simone's arc had started. But because I think Simone even has one of yeah, she does. But there's already a lot going on with that episode, and I didn't want to do 5, I guess it would have been, issues with the Doctor. So that's why we're doing it now. Okay, so Secret Files and Origins 2003. August 2003 is the cover date. We've got a couple stories here. End to end. Script Gail Simone, pencils Joe Bennett, and inks Jack Jadson. Early one morning, Paul McCannis, editor of The Revealer. Pardon me, I'm going to move this window so I can see more of it because I do not need to. There we go. Okay. Early one morning, Paul McCannis, editor of The Revealer, a superhero supervillain tabloid, unlocks a building only to find Penguin and 2 of his henchmen waiting for him. Penguin is upset about a story in that morning's paper and, after asking the whereabouts of the girl, proceeds to bomb the building with Mr. McCannis inside. Oracle and Black Canary are watching some celebrity television shows doing a story of questionable merit on Black Canary, featuring an interview with Guy Gardner and erroneously linking Black Canary romantically to other heroes such as Batman and Metamorpho. The story ends and the duo see the report on the newspaper bombing. Grabbing the last edition, they discover a story about a woman claiming to have been impregnated by Penguin. At the Iceberg Lounge, 2 police officers ask Penguin about his whereabouts, and several female employees provide him with alibis. After the police leave, the henchmen also leave and are followed by Black Canary, who is hoping they'll lead her to the pregnant girl. They do, and Black Canary is able to rescue to rescue the girl, whose name is Julie Leanne Briggs. Penguin arrives in a limo, and the villains give chase with one henchman able to shoot Black Canary in the arm. The villains catch up to Canary and Julie in a subway station, but Canary is able to defeat the villains with some help from Julie before passing out. It is established that Penguin is not the father. Julie lied in order to become famous. Oracle arranges for Julie to get a monthly check until the baby graduates from college. And I would disagree slightly with that. To get famous, I think it was more that she could take care of her child, but there you go. The henchmen cover for Penguin, so he's not arrested with them, though there is little to charge the henchmen with anyway. I will say that for all of these, I'm not super excited about the art. It's either the art or it's the coloring. I just don't care for it as much. And that's for all the stories. Some are better than others, but just, you know. It's not Benna's. Obviously the busts are perhaps more manageable, but yeah, just not as attractive in my opinion. I am surprised though, just because secret files usually seem to be pretty important as an addition to any run, and so I feel like they usually try to bring in some heavy hitters, but I don't know if they hit this one out of the park necessarily. I wasn't super impressed with the story, but it seems to have all of the traits of a Birds of Prey story. You've got Dinah and Babs hanging out, they're going against a male baddie, and then helping out that someone is less fortunate and a woman here. So it's kind of the recipe for a classic Birds of Prey story. Julie shows some similarities to Babs and Dinah, both in the choices that they have made as well as what if situations. So I thought that was pretty interesting, kind of casting Julie as a foil to those two. And Penguin, speaking of art, Penguin is really drawn here monstrously. I mean, here's just this bottom panel. My goodness. It always goes back and forth, right? Um, I feel like sometimes he really looks penguin like, and sometimes he's just a regular guy that's kind of plump. But this time we really decided to go for it. And I guess it kind of fits the story with how he doesn't like someone saying this, that he's impregnated them, just using him, and no one would have sex with him. And yeah, so it goes along with that. I like that the TV special is ridiculous and how it makes fun of Dinah's history. And of course, you have Guy Gardner, who I don't care for, but it is funny how it's just poking fun at Dinah and her history, and she is kind of able to laugh along with it, but at least Babs is for sure. This issue, or the story, I should say, also shows the strength and resolve of Dinah, especially after she gets shot. And it shows her ingenuity with the fake Batman that she worked up. If I can find this with the subway. I mean, yeah, she's not passed out. She's got this wound. Oh, yeah. She puts a cape. She bought a cape or borrowed a cape from a homeless man and then put it on one of those signals. And then it looks like it's Batman. I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 Guy Gardner IQ points. The next story is Flipside, script Paul Sorey, pencils Jeffrey Henderson, inks John Stanish. Helena is going after some mob guys who are looking to be high in the drug trade. And I guess that could be used either way. They're like high on the echelon or the hierarchy, but yeah, they could also be high. They're also experimenting with some new poison that makes people aggressive and strong. She's interrupted by Dinah's arrival, and as things begin to go wrong, they team up and clean up, even though one guy dies. Oracle didn't send Dinah to go after Huntress, but the trail led there, and afterwards, the ladies walk out of the warehouse together, finding common ground. So if there existed a pre-Batgirl's purple box, I think that we have discovered it here, because there's certainly a question as to who is narrating. It seems like third person initially, where it begins, they're literally purple too. It begins, the thug in the pricey suit is Dante Bonino, aka Danny Bones. I knew him when we were kids, back when sweet little Helena had no clue she was mafia princess, or that Dante's dad was a leg breaker for the Bertinelli family, my family. So it's okay. So maybe I'm wrong. It does seem third person, or sorry, first person, but then I don't know why she's pulling a Caesar and saying little Helena. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll take it back. But at first it does really seem third person narrator, and then it switches over to first. And then yeah, there's like a box that says, well, that kind of undercut the whole fun on my own bit. That seems more of a someone externally making that comment. I don't know. It's confusing. So I think I'm correct in saying that this is the pre-Batgirl's purple box, but it's probably meant to be Helena since there is that purple shade, but it's just kind of wonky how it is. I think the biggest takeaway here in this particular story is that Donna and Helena find common ground and can work together, which is great, right? Because in the real world, this is sometimes hard to find, that you have a best friend who says negative things about someone, and that is going to color what you think about that person. This has happened to me personally. I don't know about, well, at the hospital, probably about me, right? But in when I first started my teaching job, the my predecessor, I heard many bad things from a couple people, and then I just had this negative opinion of her. And later on, I actually apologized for this, like years later, and we're I would say strong acquaintances, on the cusp of being friends. So, anyways, this is good on Dinah that she has heard many negative things probably from Babs, but she's giving Helena a fresh start with no prejudgments. And I like that Helena assumes Dinah is going to get on her for the dead body and blame her for it, even though it wasn't her fault. And then Dinah says, "Sorry to disappoint." So it's funny, but and it's realistic and it's true. It's also sad that that is her expectation that a member or someone who is in the orbit of Batman is going to assume poor intent or poor performance on Helena and just carry it with them. And it's like, no, that's not. I know that wasn't your fault. Why would I judge you on that? I am not sure. That sounded weird. I'm not sure what gold saucers Helena throws, if I can find this. Yeah, they came. I don't know. Does she have stuff that she throws that's like that? Throwing some coins? Think they get lodged. Where is it? Yeah, they hit the backs. I don't know what those are, if anyone knows what those are. I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 new friendships. And then the final story is Who's Next? Script Scott Young, art Phil Sinslade, and colors Hi-Fi. This is pre-Birds of Prey, like way back when, where Babs has the first mission queued up and goes through potential agents, including Fire. She considers her too flaky, Dr. Fate too creepy, Big Barda too bull in China's shop, and Huntress last resort, before landing on Dinah and giving her a call and a second chance. That's a Zoigma, my friends. So I love the fact that Karen says, "Drop dead Oracle" when Babs calls, because that's 100% in character. It was also interesting to see the other choices that Babs has queued up, and Barda does appear on the team. So I wonder if that will be a coincidence or if it's really someone that they had been thinking about, but we're not going to use her yet. It's a fun story. I think many people, what's where that many people wondered. Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out what I wrote. It was a fun story that I'm sure many people reading Birds of Prey wondered about, like, how did Barbara come to the decision that she had to call Dinah? So I'm glad we had that. And I'm honestly surprised that she even considered Helena. Last Resort is right, but I'm just surprised that she didn't. This looks like Bruce Timm artwork. Sorry, I got distracted by this. With Helena there. Huh. Yes, Last Resort, I'm sure surprised she's not even on the list. Now, in the Wikipedia, which I should say that only the synopsis for the first story came from Wikipedia, but I did find a note. It said in the third story, Barbara looks through a number of female heroes to choose for her mission. The list includes a female Dr. Fate, which could be either Inza Nelson Kramer or Linda Strauss, and Argent. However, those two characters have never been active at the same time period. So this is an error. So push up the bridge of your glasses, because that was a nerdy comment, but hey, I didn't know. So thank you. And I won't go through the bios. There are bios for Huntress, Batgirl, and Oracle, and then Black Canary. And Ed Benes does the art on Black Canary. Who did the art on Lee Loffridge? Interesting. Has a very Bruce Timmy feel. Oh yeah, you can see the Benes. And then wherever Oracle is. Oh, I see. Yeah, they did Cass and Barbara next to each other, which is pretty cool. Okay. I'm going to give Who's Next 8 out of 10. I enjoyed that. It was pretty funny, where she's looking through a CCTV monitor at Dr. Fate, and then Dr. Fate looks up and is like, mm-mm, go away. Okay. So, a full story now. We have Birds of Prey 60, Feeding the Game, Part 1, December 2003. Writer Gail Simone, penciler Ed Benes, inkers Rob Lay and Alex Lay, probably Rob Leah and Alex Lay, and colors Hi-Fi. Savant, complete with mouth gag, is led through Arkham to an isolated area so that he can't talk to anyone. The guard leading him talks about his deal with the reporter from the Revealer that he gives her. Oh, I'm glad we know what the Revealer is from whatchamacallit, because when I first read this, I didn't know. The guard leading him talks about his deal with a reporter from the Revealer that he gives her tidbits and invasive photos like poison ivy in the shower, which is gross, but that reporter had no idea who Savant was. Elsewhere, Dinah rolls up on a mansion and gets in an inappropriate pat down by security before she tells him what's what. Senator Pullman walks up and saves the security guy before leading Canary away on a quasi duck hunting safari. He explains he had a work relationship with Savant, and now that he's locked away, he needs the discs. You know which discs we're talking about. Canary says she saw the discs burned slash burn the disc herself and lets the senator know this whole meeting has been filmed by the JSA. He's not buying it, and we see back at the clock tower that Babs and the real Dinah are there helping Huntress, dressed as Black Canary, walk through the mission. Babs fumbles through trying to tell Dinah she still has a copy of the information, but Dinah interrupts, so she never gets to, and Huntress completes the mission, all the while making fun of the fishnets. Batgirl begrudgingly, I don't know why I said that, Babs begrudgingly admits that Huntress did a good job fitting in, and Dinah tells her to get over the fact that she slept with Dick. Babs applauds Dinah for her role in the mission and promotes her to staying behind at the tower, behind the computer. But Dinah says, on top of being undercover as a stripper or hooker, she wants no part of being near computers. She attempts to navigate with a wheelchair, but ends up falling out, proving Babs's point about her injuries and making some statements that connect Babs' concern with Dinah and her concern with Dick. Back at Arkham, Savant is getting beat up by a guard who is actually not deaf, but was planted there by the senator in order to get information on Oracle. Savant says he can take the beating, but wavers. Savant says he can take the beating, but wavers when Creote is mentioned. Could he also like Creote? I don't know. Well, his only friend. At the clock tower, Babs says Dinah's heart is going to get her killed, and Babs can't take any more of her friends getting hurt. Dinah tries to comfort her and is interrupted ordering eggplant lasagna by Babs firing Dinah. Hashtag sorry, not sorry in the perspective of Babs. Great Scott. Okay. We'll do the synopsis for the next one and then talk about them individually. We have Birds of Prey 61 Feeding the Game Part 2, January 2004. Writer Gail Simone, penciler Ed Benes, and inker Alex Lay, and colors Hi-Fi. Babs and Dinah continue the conversation from the previous issue, and Dinah demands answers. Babs puts on her best back jerk impression and tells her that she was injured in 2 recent missions, and both injuries were the direct result of severe misjudgments on Dinah's part. Dinah is aghast at this, especially given the hot spots Dinah has sent her to. So, hypocrisy. Dinah knows there's something else going on here and asks to go outside and talk. Dinah asks if people looked at Babs differently and lost faith in her after she got shot, because that is what it feels like to Dinah now. But Babs has rolled away and says they can talk when she gets back. At Arkham, Savant breaks his thumbs to escape the cuffs, beats up the guard, and escapes. Back with Dinah, she begins Dinah 2.0 by cutting her hair, now with bangs, and calling up many of her associates to begin training, like Wildcat and Cass, though she calls her Cassie. We also see Dinah call Dick, and he's surprised Babs hasn't told her they broke up. Whoopsie! I guess that might be the issue. Dinah and Cass train, but Cass tells her that Dinah's eyes betray her, and she knows they are not capable of killing, so they must train the eyes to lie. Babs goes to the Italian restaurant and is unpleasant. She's a Karen, I guess, to the waitress who tries to forward her brother's flirting. Later, that waitress's daughter tries to comfort Babs, and Babs apologizes to the waitress, saying that sometimes she's downright pleasant. The waitress brings some tiramisu, and Babs tells her tells her story to this stranger instead of her BFF. Ridiculous. The waitress compares Babs to her ex husband, rude, and how he treated their developmentally disabled, her words, child, and that he couldn't control her. Yikes. What a comparison. She leaves with advice and expects a large tip. On her way back from the mission, Huntress is followed by the Senator's security, and while she tries to lose them, disobeying Dinah along the way, hashtag fire Huntress, she never can, and it must be because there is a tracker planted on the bike. The Senator tells the guys to kill Black Canary, and Dinah actually directs Huntress to an alleyway where she can roll down and take out the car with her canary cry. She then cleans them up with some Eskrima sticks. Huntress is impressed and says she would treat her with more respect in the future. Donna offers lunch, but Huntress has a date with that parking attendant, would you believe? Babs rolls out of the shadows and basically says, point proven, and kind of sort of apologizes. Upstairs, they receive a call from Savant, who's going to track them down, Liam Nelson style. Babs spooks him with her threat of being everywhere, and he runs off. Back outside, Babs says she's going to bring Huntress on probation, but Dinah says she doesn't listen. She ignores directions in the fields. Too unpredictable and has a temper problem. And Babs throws Dinah's words from earlier in her face with, "You've got to learn how to let the small stuff go." Next, we have Sensei and Student. Okay. So here's the cover to 60. So I like how we're in real time, potentially, because she's still messed up. So it makes sense that we have somebody else in her guise. Pretty good, I would say. I mean, we do have the crotches. There's a crotch. There's a crotch. But can't tell too much about the tatas. So not too bad. And I guess you have some of Huntress's black hair coming out. So does a good job of telling us what's going on in this issue. You know what? If only Donovan were here, because he would love to talk about Babs's hypocrisy and the fact that she fired Dinah just after Batman fired Cass. So there we go. I thought it was a bit bizarre why Savant was separated from the rest of the prison population and gagged, and I couldn't believe it was Oracle who did it, because that was kind of in my mind of, did Oracle do this? Did she? Did she? So it makes sense that it was the senator who had all of this order, so Savant wouldn't reveal secrets unless it was to the senator, because the whole thing is get these discs, right? So this will be interesting to see where this goes, because it's already been 2 arcs now that these discs are popping up. The guard calls the senator to say Savant acquiesced to the demands, but I feel like this is a leap given Savant only paused after Creode is mentioned. He didn't say that he'd actually talk about Oracle, so I wasn't sure why that was happening. Well, we certainly have more butt shots, crotch shots, and men being creeps here, especially the security guy saying it was the best duty he pulled. Let's see if I can find you some good ones here. Yes. Well, oh my gosh, it's like this whole page. This whole page. There's a crotch shot. There's there's half buttocks. There's another crotch. Man, lots of things going on here. Yes, and yeah. Am I making you uncomfortable, ma'am? Oh my gosh. I did tell you, didn't I, when I went to Kenya on the way back through security, I got my first ever pat down, and my gosh, my nipples did not like being touched in that way by a stranger, I have to say. Okay. I feel like this is a Southern senator after he says he thought Black Canary was African American or whatever they're calling themselves. Good heavens. Probably a Southern Republican senator, in my opinion, just from that. Suddenly, this estate opens up to a safari-like atmosphere, which is pretty crazy. I think there's a crotch shot by accident, but it's huge. It's huge. I don't know if I can show a better but there's probably a better. I'm just astounded. I mean, look at this place. Clearly he's rich, but it looks like we all of a sudden transported from, I don't know, Virginia to Africa somewhere. The line about not messing up the costume makes sense once it's revealed that Huntress is pretending to be Black Canary. And I like that Black Canary is still injured, as I said. So this comic is running in real time. And later, Huntress removing the blonde wig is similar to Black Canary when she was brunette, and of course, wearing a wig. And I feel like we also had Wonder Girl. Didn't she wear a wig? And is there anyone else? Supergirl, maybe? Unless it was that Matrix thing where she actually turned blonde. I can't remember. But yeah, it seems to be kind of a standard MO, but it's a nice flashback for Black Canary in particular. As I said, I'm interested to see where the story goes with the discs. I think it'll be just a little while that we will see them. Hopefully not too drawn out, but this book I think could probably have many people coming after these discs once they find out Savant is locked up. So the senator is person one, and then we'll see. I think Babs should have tried harder to tell Dinah about the discs. I feel like we see this frequently in media or yeah, in real life. If you want to tell somebody something, no one should be able to interrupt you. You should be able to push on and say, "No, this is important. I didn't burn the disc." But because she knows that that was not a good thing, I think that she was easily interrupted. Seeing Dinah navigate a wheelchair with one arm is interesting. You would think that she would just be rolling in circles. I'm honestly not sure necessarily how that works. And then, of course, going up the ramp, she ends up falling. This is very interesting. Dinah sticking up for Huntress is nice, but I don't think Huntress sleeping with Dick is the reason why Babs isn't fully on board with her. I mean, that if that were the reason, that that would just portray Barbara in a really bad light. And that's not the type of character that I would go for because that's just really petty. I think that there are many reasons why Barbara does not like Helena. I think that could be one of the reasons, though, they had slept together, even though there's that weird overlap with No Man's Land. Dick had been with Helena pre Babs. So while Babs may have been fostering feelings, I don't know that you can necessarily, because then she'd have think about all the people that Dick has slept with. She would have to be really angry at all those people and probably really angry at Dinah for walking in on Dick in the shower. Don't forget that. So that while it may be a reason, that's not the reason. I think she definitely still feels burned about Helena wearing that costume without her permission during No Man's Land. And she also, Barbara does share some of the moral ethical issues with Helena's practices that Batman does. And I think that probably is the main reason why Helena is on her poop list. She doesn't unfortunately trust her, and I think that it's unfortunate because like I was talking about, how people's negative attitudes can influence others. I wonder if Batman, if she had not had this relationship with Batman and Batman had not been saying these things about Huntress, would Barbara have the same opinions on Huntress that she does, or would she have given her a benefit of the doubt? I'm not sure. Let's see. Babs has legitimate concerns regarding Dinah's safety, but I do feel like she's conflating Dinah with Dick or projecting, if that is a better word, maybe. She's more willing to cut her losses than endure any more pain watching someone she loves get hurt. So she's breaking up with Dick and now she's firing Dinah, and both of these seem certainly extreme reactions. Um, I think the firing is more extreme than perhaps the breakup because you're still going to have a relationship, but you're just not as close. And I think when you break up with somebody, I think you're still Let me see if I can work through this here. I do think the firing is more extreme because she just wants to, I guess she wouldn't see Dinah at all, and she's just worried about her, and she knows there's no stopping her. With Dick, I think there's still gonna be run-ins, but she just can't, she's trying to, which is hard because she's trying to separate her heart from him, but there's really no way you can do that necessarily. I think she's just not going to see him as much. They won't have as many of those chats, those informal chats, and then also she it won't be her place, but she won't know as much about what he's doing, so it won't be her place to speak on that. Um, if she broke up with Dinah, she could still use her as an agent, but that's still not the point. Breaking up as a friend there. But yeah, as if Dinah, I guess it's just out of sight, out of mind for Babs, if I'm to get down to it. I think the last thing is just, yeah, I don't see how Dinah being behind a computer is a promotion anyway, and I just know that Babs would get annoyed at her, so I just don't think that that would last very long. And then this is the final issue. So again, just everyone knows now. We've got Helena and a policeman. Did that happen in this issue? Cass beating up um Dinah, wait, what did I did say Helena, right? Helena and a policeman, and then yeah, Dick and Babs, and tough choices, tough choices, and of course hashtag Carolyn knows because Babs is just midway. So this is a very interesting character study on Barbara in particular, and secondarily on Dinah. How does Barbara deal with issues of the heart? How does Dinah deal with being put in timeout? We see Babs fail her test initially, but Dinah obtains, I think, stronger resolve, and we see that immediately, starting with a new hairdo. That conversation on the roof is difficult, especially with the reminder of the killing joke, but it's really bad how Barbara treats Dinah as everyone treated her. And so this is a big character flaw and failing for Barbara, but I think at least she does recognize it and she comes back for it. But it's a lot of protecting herself, and so that's why she's making these wrong and wrongful choices. Barbara says the Birds of Prey is not a democracy. Blah. Barbara says that the Birds of Prey is not a democracy, and that made me laugh. It most certainly is a dictatorship. That's also how I run my Latin classroom, by the way. I'm surprised and strongly disagree with Babs's inability to talk to Dinah about her breakup with Dick. Now, it does make sense in a way because obviously she didn't talk with Cass about it. I think she wants to internalize it. And we're already seeing that she can't handle some of these intense feelings now and she'd rather just like push things away. But I would expect her to talk to her BFF and not some stranger. Working at the Disney store and sometimes, well, the hospital for sure, but the Disney store, people would come up and I don't know, they would start telling you all about themselves and their life story. And you kind of wonder, what is that? Is that me? Is that them needing somebody? Is it something about being with a stranger? I'm a pretty private person, despite having a podcast, obviously, but I don't tell strangers my issues. I am waiting I've got people that I would go to talk about that. So this is just shocking, surprising, and I disagree with it. Amidst a world of Karens, many of whom they're just like that. They're just like that, Karen. At least we can show empathy to those people who don't normally act rudely. So you'd think that someone is just a Karen for a day or that there's something to cause it, but you never know. And I think that's an example of what we see here. Now, there's not necessarily an excuse for people how they have been acting to, I would say, food services people in particular. But as with empathy, we can try to understand, but also condemn that behavior. So there's a good example, though, just that Babs, why are you acting this way, Barbara? Well, there's a reason for it. And then she does at least own up to that behavior and apologize. There was a weird section in here where Barbara confuses a child's voice for the waitress, and I thought you should probably be able to distinguish a child's voice from an adult, right? But maybe she's so wrapped up that she just got confused. I like how Dinah is setting up a training schedule. And while it may seem unrealistic that she can fight so well with the scream of sticks in a chair after she can't navigate a ramp, at least we see that she takes her mission to heart. And I like how she has Wildcat. Always liked that relationship. One of my favorite episodes in Justice League Unlimited. Wonder if I can find this. And then setting up with Cass. Oh, it must be before that. Also, that child, isn't that one girl who will pop up soon called Sin or something like that? Kind of reminds me of her, but oh yeah. Look at all these people that she's got written down. We've got Batgirl Wednesdays and Fridays 4 to 6, Wildcat Saturdays 9 to 12, Nightwing, Wonder Woman, Connor Hawk, Mr. Terrific, and Scott Free. So she's like, if Barbara thinks this, or if I have really been slipping, then I'm going to change it, which I love that about Dinah. Cass speaks really well and intelligently. Another reason why I wish Donovan were here to tell me if he agrees with how she is speaking. I like what she has to say, just not how she says it. Let's see if I can find this. You punch with intelligence and you block strong and you don't retreat. The problem isn't in your hands or in your heart. It's in your eyes. When I look at you, I don't believe you're capable of killing me emotionally. So we have to teach your eyes to lie. She didn't even take a breath. I think that she speaks too well for Cassandra. Most people would nope, nope, nope. Let's see. Huntress sure is acting like Huntress. Yes, which is hilarious given the fact that it is Dinah directing her and not Barbara, because of course it would happen to Barbara and Barbara would get super annoyed. Dinah's inability to run the mission in an oracle way proves her point about not being behind the computer, right? Because she can't help navigate Huntress very well. She can't use technology, but she is smart with how she deals with it in the end. Asks where she is, gets her directed, rolls down, uses her canary cry. And then, of course, we have that pretty badass fight scene, which is awesome that she is using a scream of sticks. One can only hope that she's been trained with Barbara, but who knows? And then bonding over Huntress is fun in the end. And this whole arc, I think, really is a solid development of Barbara and Dinah's relationship, which I love, which is one of my favorite parts. And just the fact that you see, I think, how much Barbara loves Dinah. She might love her as much as Dick, but just in a different way. The fact that she is super worried about her and is just willing to cut her losses instead of getting emotionally hurt from something that happens to Dinah. And you see, I think, also the impact of Barbara's words on Dinah and the fact that it probably hurt a great deal, not only in how Barbara was treating her, but then also has she lost faith in me? And so she starts training again. And then they come back together and they're stronger. So it's like these two are the core of the Birds of Prey. And I think maybe going through this arc is sort of fire, and now they've made it through that and they're really cemented. And so any other member that they take on is an addition to it, but really has to pass through these two. Like, can you oh, I don't think anyone will ever make it into a trio necessarily, but I think in order to be a solid part of the team, you have to be able to work with these two, and they both have to be on the oh my goodness, the same plane, I guess. Um, yeah, no, I feel like this was really solid. I think I'd give it 9 out of 10 eggplant lasagnas. Solid character slash relationship building arc, even if I disagree with some things, of course, and there may be some hypocrisy. But overall, I thought it was, yeah, pretty good. I don't know if there's anything else I want to say about their relationship, but yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and hopefully now that they've been through this, they don't have to go through anything else. It's been too many trials in Barbara's life, I feel. Okay, well, now I'm going over to some listener emails. And I do have some YouTube comments, which I'll go through first, I guess, and then one email. Okay, so first on episode 225, part 1, Donovan responds on his own video, Return of the King, and has 3 crowns. I think I basically said, no, thank you. Then we have, oh, yes. Now, people troll me, right? I troll them. I troll with love. But, one troll is enough. I don't need one person having 3 troll identities and trolling me. But that is, in fact, what the bamboozler, right round bamboozler, did to me. So, first, from his Bagels After Midnight identity, he says, Yay, Donovan Grant is my favorite BTO guest star. That seems rude and offensive, so I won't tell anyone else about that. Then, as Harrison Shute, he responds, the sexual tension in this episode is thick. Is I'm so sorry. I was supposed to say so thick, but it says too thick. The sexual tension in this episode is so thick you could cut it with a battering. Listen, that's not sexual tension. That's my disgust with him. No, Donovan is probably the only, that's a lie. I was going to say the only man in my life that I will just touch his chesticles, his pectoral muscles, without permission. But I do like to grab onto Josh's arm. So I don't know. So I guess I have 2 guy friends in my life that I'm more touchy-feely with, I guess, than other people. Then he comes back and he said, as Bagels After Midnight, quoting me, of course, how racist of you. I had the privilege of having that moment hyped up in personal conversation for days now, and I was a bit surprised that it was a toss-off suggestion on Donovan's part, as opposed to quote unquote racism. I think Mr. Morgan Grant's mind is instead structured by narrative, and it would be a proper dramatic turn for this tropey meet cute to instead spiral into a Cassandra love story. At that point, we may initiate Triangle as mentioned. Just you wait until the new issue. However, Stella is eagle-eared here, no surprise. As Donovan well knows too, interracial couples remain rare even today, as if for the writer, there's always a political dimension to each combination. There is, when they're just trying to tell a story. But in the instances where a writer does take the big risk, our implicit bias favors certain pairings while others never seem to occur. As an Asian American male, it's rare to see Asian men in American media, rarer to see them as romantic prospects, and rarer still to see them paired with non Asian women. Reiterated sometimes with a celebrity gaffe or an article about The Bachelor, this is an ancient wound that may have healed for me but maintains traction with the incel community. What I'd like to see from this part of the story going forward is Steph dating this Kyle Mizuguchi, perhaps named for Kenji Mizuguchi, film director of The Crucified Lovers. He gasped. But Cassandra being protective of her. But Cassandra being protective of her. Quote, if you hurt her, Coil, I'll crucify you. That's very interesting, especially in regards to, in regards to your comments on not many Asian American, it's getting dark in here, not many Asian American males being in media. And I, of course, was thinking about, let me share here. Of course, thinking about this guy, Henry Golding, who seems to be pretty hot right now, I guess in more ways than one, but he was with 2 white women in that one movie, which name I can't remember, but he was with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. So, I suppose, an exception to your rule, I feel like with Hollywood, you if you are not white, it seems like you have to be super attractive in order to, make headway, it seems like, and then so attractive that pairing you up with attractive white actresses so that you can, in fact, have an interracial couple, then Hollywood will allow it. I will say personally that when I was probably middle school and high school, I only thought, now don't get yourself excited right round, but I only thought, or I thought I should say, I thought I would only date Asian men. I only had attraction for Asian men. I don't know when exactly this started. I have to think that it might have been a character that Piper from Charmed was involved with for, like, an episode, but I really liked him. Then I had a big old crush on this guy, I still find him wildly attractive, Rick Yoon. I saw him first in Fast and the Furious, and then, of course, he was in, um, my favorite Bond, which is, Die Another Day, and this guy who pops up, I'm always overjoyed when I see him. I also find this man wildly attractive. So, the Asians are still on my list, I have to say. I hope that I'd be willing to be in a movie with either Rick Yoon or Hiroyuki Sanada, and I would be glad to be their girlfriend, but Hollywood's not giving me a call. But I do take your point certainly with what you are saying. And then Bagels After Midnight said something about something. Oh, I think that was a response to something I said. He said that's no way to speak to teenage me. Well, I guess I just did. Some weird fake altercation going on outside of my apartment, and I was nervous. And then finally, we have an email from my Earth 2 BFF, Shayna. She says, BFF Stella, I thought there was an issue post Burnside where Barbara reveals she is Batgirl to a few of her friends after ditching their plans together too many times to fight crime, though I can't remember if Alicia is one of them or not. Either way, I'm not sure how Steph knows Alicia because I don't remember them interacting at all in the past. Like you, I suspect Alicia's involvement in these last couple of issues of Batgirls had to do with cross promotion with the Batgirl film, RIP, and a weeping emoji. As much as I like Alicia, I think it would make more sense to have Frankie reintroduced considering how involved she was with helping Babs in the past. Agreed. And didn't Frankie meet and work with Steph during a team up at one point? I do believe you're right about that. I You already know I have podcast fatigue. If I get my energy up, perhaps I will look at some of those post Burnside runs and flip through and figure out where this is. I did recall that the Pride issue has Barbara and Alicia, Batgirl and Alicia working together, and Alicia heavily hints that she knows Batgirl is Barbara, but says, like, in your own time, but we never crossed that line. You can't go from that hinting that I may know, but you can tell me when you want to, oh, you've been talking to me openly about this. So that's an issue if that's all we've seen. You could be right about the Burnside, but I'd have to dig back in there. And I don't like the post Burnside stuff. I think what really bothers me about the writing of Bab, Steph, and Cass and Batgirls has to do with how simplified they feel. All three of these women have had long enough histories that have showcased just how nuanced they can be. I think there's a deep well of characterization that can be drawn on for each of them. There is also a weight that comes with all their past history that seems to be missing because it doesn't feel properly represented on the page. It probably doesn't matter much to the reader who isn't familiar with their histories, but I personally find it dissatisfying. Though with everything now canon in DC, what constitutes a proper or even correct representation gets kind of fuzzy. For instance, Clunan and Conrad keeping their ages vague, or even Renee being commissioner. And I will click on this link that she sent me because I scanned through that and I was agog at what they said about these ages. Let's see if I can find it. Derpa, derpa, derpa. Ooh, ooh, nope. Mm. How old is Babs coming from this? She's in her early 20s, comes Clunan. And then Conrad says, like, marginally older. She's like old enough to, then Conrad or Clunan says, old enough that it's a little bit older. I think Steph and Cass are meant to be like 13 and 14 in our series. Is that what it is? And then Conrad says, I think it might be a little bit older than that. We try and keep it vague. Clunan, when we came in, they're like, Babs is like out of college. Is she really saying like this? She's like in her 20s, and these girls are definitely like in their mid teens. Um, I don't, who's JC? Somebody just said I had to check the other day because I was drawing a panel. I was like, wait, how old are these girls in this continuity? I think they are like 17 and 16 of that spectrum. That's crazy. That's crazy. Get it together. Also, I don't think I should be older than Barbara Gordon. Barbara Gordon should be my age. She should be low to mid 30s, in my opinion. And these girls cannot be 13 and 14. They need to be in school. Or else, like, honestly, this is a Batman situation with his poor decision making and Robins and stuff like that. Back to the email. A few comments on a possible romance between Steph and Cass. I prefer them as friends, but I wouldn't be opposed to it happening. If it did happen, I would want it to be done well, and I would want it to make sense for both of them. I don't think I'd want to see it develop in Batgirls because these versions of the characters feel so far removed from who I know them to be. I'd rather have a queer romance never happen than for it to be done poorly. Not all representation is good representation. Yeah, agreed with there. Shayna, you're saying all the things that I believe as well. All the best, Shayna. Yeah. Um, yeah, not all, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I think, this is something that I've struggled with a lot, and I ask people, I think it's a good question to ask as, like, if you don't have many conversations, you pull it out on an index card, whether you would never want to see something or someone on page or on film, or would you rather see them but it may be terrible? And so, yeah, that's kind of hard, isn't it? Back when I was doing post Burnside stuff, it was so hard for me to read that I almost didn't want Barbara Gordon to be out there. But we made it past, and we have, some better things. So thank you for all who wrote in. As you can see, if you write on the YouTube, I will in fact read that unless it's disparaging and disrespectful. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to cover some modern quickies, including Nightwing for 2 months and a full review of Batgirl's number 11. And but first, Zaius's radio hour featuring Dead Man Running by Sugi by Sugi. And this goes out to you, Professor Coca Jr. See you guys soon.